everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. Merry Christmas. And we are here to talk about the non-Hallmarks for week 2. It's going to be so much fun. Christmas movies, of course. And I'm film critic Rich Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. Um,
I think this batch was a case of highs and lows.
Definitely a mixed bag.
Yeah. It's like I was saying the other day, the whole old Animaniacs skit, the good idea, bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
When they do like that, good idea, bad idea. That was the case with these movies. Some good ideas, some bad ideas. But well, let's dive in. Let's talk about these. We're going to talk about Lifetime. We're going to talk about Disney Plus. We're going to talk about QVC Plus. And yeah, but let's talk about Lifetime. So
Mm-hmm.
the first one, Christmas at the Chalet on Lifetime, just on the 25th, stars Teri Hatcher, William DeVry, and director Lucy Guest, writer Julia Cranny. And it's when ex-TV host and socialite Lex finds herself faced with the possibility of spending Christmas sharing a luxury chalet with her son, ex-husband, and his new girlfriend. She volunteers to work in the chalet to avoid things getting too close to home, while documenting her every move for a new wave of followers who are loving this new chapter of her life. So overall, what did you think about this movie?
I really liked this. This was
Yeah.
such a surprise. I'm not sure. I think I was mainly just excited to see Terry Hatcher on and when we previewed it. I think that was just like the main draw. But yeah, I thought this was really smart in its use of social media. It felt like something that I would see on TikTok. Like maybe not necessarily the situation, but
Yeah.
the idea of a woman in her 50s sort of um starting like a second chapter and documenting that felt
Yeah.
very authentic. So it felt I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The majority of the sort of social media things that we see in these movies tend to be a little bit cringe or a little bit unrealistic. But that wasn't the case here.
Mhm.
I loved I mean the situation itself is a little bonkers that she sort of has to work at this hotel in order to get a room. But I loved the way that it was dealt with.
Yeah.
I loved her like approach of like not phased by any of it. Nothing was beneath her. You know, she sort of has this former life as someone really well known, and
Mhm.
so people recognize her. But the fact that none of that was like um sort of phasing her in terms of doing a job that a lot of people would deem below her.
Mhm.
She never did. And
Right.
I thought this was definitely one of the best performances from Terry Hatcher that I've seen in one of these movies. Um,
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say that this is probably one of my favorite movies, Christmas movies that she's done. Um, but yeah, overall, this really worked for me.
Yeah, it was a huge surprise. I mean, this was an obvious acquisition for a Lifetime. This was not made by them. And it just shows you never know with movies. And I think I don't know if I gave it a coal or I gave it a low, I gave it I think a pretty low preview score because I thought the plot was going to be about her getting together with her husband or
Mm-hmm.
ex-husband. And then the fact his girlfriend's there, I was like, oh, that doesn't sound great, but it's actually not. There's this other guy that's that's running the hotel or whatever that is her love interest, not her husband. And so that worked a lot better than the way the summary sounds. And she is just great in these movies. She's so warm. She's so
Mm-hmm.
like endearing, affable. I mean, I love Kiss Before Christmas. That one's brilliant. But she's wonderful in this. Like, and I totally agree. There was never a sense that being a maid was beneath her. She was up for it. She was standing up for it. I mean, she grew as a person. You really saw like a true arc for
Mm-hmm.
her that she starts out kind of scared, insecure,
Mm-hmm.
but and as she gets to know the people at the hotel and gets to know this guy and just
Mm-hmm.
she just becomes more confident by the end. I mean, you see like a real journey for her character, which you don't always get in these movies.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big surprise. I also really liked Brendan McRae playing her son.
Hmm.
And he was on Prom Pact, which I loved this year on Disney Channel, and he was also on Wind Calls the Heart, and they could have done more with him on Wind Calls the Heart, but I he was definitely a standout of the season this last season, and so I'm excited about him as a young talent because there's not that many people in these movies, whether on Hallmark or Lifetime or wherever, that are young, kind of promising, new actors, new talent, and he's somebody now I've seen 3 times and
Hmm.
enjoyed his performance. So I hope they keep using him. He's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
always fun when you see these younger actors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually sure his name, but one of the main sort of young characters in Mystic Christmas. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
done a few
Mm-hmm.
of the Hallmark
Mm-hmm.
movies.
Yeah.
Like he really jumped out to me as well, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
I I hope, or that
Yeah.
Lifetime, Hallmark, all of these networks are paying attention
Yeah.
to these young actors and the response from the fans to them,
Uh-huh.
and keep using them because I think they really elevate the movies.
Yeah.
And I was really worried um about George in this movie because when he finds out that his mum's a maid, he's kind of like obviously been raised in a very privileged situation. You know, both his parents are
Mm-hmm.
famous.
Right.
He's sort of lived this very privileged life, and I think they very easily could have gone a different way with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that he would be the one that would think that all of this was beneath
Right.
her. And it definitely starts to sort of go that way, and then it sort of pulls back
Yeah.
when he meets his love interest. So yeah, it's definitely a really, pleasant surprise, this movie.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Their whole dynamic and him kind of lovingly teaching her how to do the social media and make posts and that stuff was cute and well done. And yeah, in his little romance with I guess the name was Nicola,
Hmm.
Alexandra Cross. She was delightful. I enjoyed her very much. And that was cute, the two of them.
Yeah.
And there was hardly anything that missed. I liked the fact that this was shot it looked like it was at Whistler or someplace like that. You had tons of snow and you had skiing and you had, and that all, so it was cold and it was very Christmassy and very wintry and all of that. It was nice. Added
Yeah.
a layer.
Hmm.
Yeah. I actually emailed the agent of the writer because I was like, I want to talk to this person because I was very impressed
Hmm.
with the writing in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very well done, and it's just so fun when you find a movie like this,
Yes.
little sort of diamond in the rough of
Yeah.
like, you just never know what you're gonna get. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and if you're in the UK and you want to see this movie, it's actually streaming over here as well. So it's on Channel 5 if you're in the UK. It's definitely just a little fun movie, and yeah,
Hmm.
just it's definitely one I'm not gonna be deleting off my TV anytime
Yeah.
soon.
And it was just it really is exciting when you go into something with no expectations and then it's really great.
Hmm.
And that's just so exciting as a critic because you can tell people and hopefully we can get people to get eyeballs on this movie, get people. I immediately emailed the people at Lifetime. I was like, this was a great acquisition.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. And so yeah, I think this is so Lucy Guest, she's done a number of these movies. We've had her on the pod a couple times. She's great. She's a director, and I think this is her best movie that she's done. I'm looking over. I enjoyed Journey in My Heart. I enjoyed Lone Star Christmas, but this is definitely better than either of those. So I think that that's exciting for her. I think this is her best movie that she's directed. So way
Mm.
to go, Lucy and Teri and everybody. It was just good. Good characters, good writing, good story. It had all the Christmas feels that you could want. And yeah, and I thought their romance was good. The back and forth, the kind of enemies to lovers a little bit.
Hmm.
Although it was totally unreasonable of why they couldn't have shared that cab at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a little prickly to begin with.
Yeah.
Um, And I do like that she really stands up for herself when he oversteps a little bit in his sort of judgment of her in a
Uh-huh.
situation. I love that she sort of stands up for herself. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that also really works when you have older characters, and I love the
Hmm.
fact that she multiple times in this movie refers to herself as a woman in her 50s. Like
Yeah.
there's no shame. It's like fully embraced that she's starting this new chapter.
Yeah, and she's doing a good job of not trying to play roles written for 20-year-olds. Like she's playing authentic
Yeah.
roles. It was
Mm-hmm.
Midlove Crisis, which was all about her 50th birthday in that movie, and it was great. And or I enjoyed it quite a bit. And of course, Kiss Before Christmas, she's talking about should she go back to school? Should she, now that her kids are older, and so there's sort of that. So she's picking very good projects. Teri, good job.
Good job.
Very good. Very good job. Uh, so I don't know. I want to say, I mean, can I give it a 5? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. 4.75. It was really good. Highly recommend it for all the Hallmarkies. Check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas at the
Definitely.
Chalet. It's really good. I don't know. What would you give it?
I would give it 4. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was really good.
It was really good. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. All right, well, let's talk about Laughing All the Way. This stars Penise Zadeh and Jake Epstein. And this is when ghostwriter and aspiring comedian Aubrey is placed in charge of the Christmas variety show. She worries she might not have what it takes to pull off this make or break moment in her career. With Christmas just weeks away, Aubrey is in pursuit of the perfect headliner for the event. That is until famous Hollywood comedian Mike Baxter returns to the comedy club that launched his career. There, Mike rediscovers his stand-up roots, and Aubrey shows the world her inner funny girl. And as their journeys collide, they fall hopelessly and hilariously in love, laughing all the way. So, what did you think of this one?
I wasn't crazy about this one, but I also
Mm-hmm.
didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Um, I think it relied very heavily and was very lucky to have Jake.
Yeah.
Um, I just didn't laugh, and that's kind of what this movie needed. I didn't find any of the stand-up stuff. Like, I just felt a disconnect when, there's like these stand-up scenes and all of the the crowd is like doubled over in laughter, and I'm just like, I don't, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
funny. I really wish that the writing just was a little bit better in terms of the comedy aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think it would have been, like I said, it is just so lucky to have Jake because
Yeah.
he is so charming.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree. I think that it was close. They almost got it. The stand up just wasn't there. If they had had like a Jen Kirkman or I don't know, just somebody who knows stand up really writing that stand up, I think that would have helped a lot. But also the conflict was completely idiotic. It was ridiculous. I mean, the idea that, first of all, that Jake Epstein is going to be like your lead in your action, whatever, Hollywood action franchise feels a little bit of a stretch. But even if we buy that, the idea that they're going to start filming on Christmas Eve is absolutely ridiculous. Like, they would never do that. I mean, partly because everybody involved would want to be home with their families on Christmas Eve. Like, there's not a film, indie or blockbuster, that starts filming on Christmas Eve. It is absolutely ridiculous. And
Doesn't
and the way that they like acted, like he should just be like, well, they'll understand, it's a big movie, and all he would have to say is, I've signed a contract. I am
Also,
committed to these people. Like, I can't just. And they'd be like, oh, you're telling me that these people are that have a major Hollywood blockbuster, that they are going to give up on the star that they evidently want because he's made a commitment on Christmas Eve, that they're going, like, nobody in the world would be like, okay, we're going to wait. And then after Christmas, we'll start filming. It was ridiculous.
They also made out the fact that he had like a Comic-Con to go to. Like, what Comic-Con is happening over
right.
Christmas?
It's absurd.
And also like the fact that he had to like have a 6-pack and be really in shape. He hasn't even started that yet.
Yeah,
So
right.
why are they filming?
So that was just, every time that kind of brought up is like, and then she was all outraged that, I mean, if in the world of this movie, if he really would lose his part in this major action franchise because he had to this other commitment on Christmas Eve, the fact that she wouldn't understand that is ridiculous, because all comedians and actors and actresses, you understand that you're constantly having to change plans for the next gig. Right. I mean, every single actor will tell you stories of like, okay, I got this. I had plans. I got this part. And there's not a single friend of an actor or that they wouldn't be like, oh, I totally get that. Our plans are like, because that's just the reality of, if you're an actor, like you try to make plans, but then the next weekend, like, if somebody had scheduled, and it's happened many, many, many times, people have scheduled interviews with us and they're like, oh, I got this great audition, or I got this part unexpectedly and can't do it. Okay, of course, and because it's just part of that lifestyle. You just know that. And so if we lived in a world where they were really starting filming on Christmas Eve, there's not a single person that wouldn't be like, okay, I totally get it. You're fine. The fact that she's all like, oh, puppy, is ridiculous. But I make it sound like I hated this movie. I didn't. It was like cute enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cute. And I mean, I understand like the dynamic, between the sort of the comedian, the sort of classic sort of the comedian and the writer, the young sort of up and coming writer. And, she's still trying to sort of stay relevant, Bella. Still trying to sort of stay relevant and really sort of mistreating her assistant / writer. Like, I understand that dynamic. I mean, there's a whole TV show, Hacks, about that dynamic, and Hacks is an excellent TV show. But yeah, it's like, is Bella a villain, or is she, like, you felt like they just kind of didn't really know what to do. Like, they sort of started.
Well, and so at the end, he's, I guess, not going to be in the action film. He's going to now he's going to tour his stand-up act, and she's going to be his opener, I guess.
Yeah. And his style of comedy was a little bit like, I'd never seen anything like that. Like, that's another thing of why I'm not sure this movie fully worked for me, because I'm not someone that watches a lot of comedy as like stand-up comedy. I don't sit and watch our specials or anything like that. I think the most I've ever watched is sort of Tig Notaro and people like that. It's not something that I tend to watch a lot of.
Yeah.
So I know that Jake is a musician. His character was a musician in Degrassi, so I understand that aspect of it. But yeah, I'd never seen that style of comedy before. So
I
it's
think
a
they
little
were
bit
trying
like
to give him
wise.
like, I felt like they were trying to give him like Seinfeld kind of
Mm,
vibes a little bit, like it's a little bit sarcastic, a little bit. But yeah, I mean it was silly. I give it three crowns. It was watchable, but there were so many holes in the logic and
yeah.
that I
Yeah,
struggled
I'll go
with.
2.5, like
Yeah,
pretty much
I can
mainly
see that.
for the charm of Jake Epstein.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's The Trouble with Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow. It is the first of the Brook Hollow series. In best-selling author Jennifer Snow's sweet, wholesome Christmas romance, The Trouble with Mistletoe, our heroine learns that you can't say no to a mistletoe kiss, no matter who's under it. Since leaving Brook Hollow and her fiancé Luke Dawson 12 years earlier, Victoria Mason hasn't looked back. She's traded the small-town dream of marriage, kids, and family Christmas dinners for late nights working at a high-powered acquisitions firm, lunches at trendy New York restaurants, and jet-setting vacations on the slopes. So her latest work assignment to acquire Brook Hollow's sporting goods store poses a challenge for Victoria in more ways than one, because it's almost Christmas and she's got other holiday plans, and the owner is reluctant to sell, and the owner is Luke. She needs to wrap up the deal before she gets caught up in her old life and her old love, or becomes trapped under the mistletoe again. You can find The Trouble with the Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow wherever you purchase your holiday reads, or use the affiliate link in the description below.
All right. So then we have The Naughty Nine. This was on Disney Plus, and it's director Alberto Belli, and it's also on Disney Channel. And writers Jed Elenoff and Scott Thomas, and stars Winslow Fegley. And they show Danny Glover in the poster and everything like that as Santa Claus. He is barely in this. So if you're going to it for Danny Glover, you might be disappointed. He's maybe in 5 minutes of this movie. Very, very little. But that said, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I should read the summary. So when Andy finds out he's on Santa's naughty list, he pulls together a group of the naughty list kids to get the presents they think they deserve. And you didn't get a chance to see this. It's not over there in the UK yet. I saw it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really charming, really funny. Just a good group of kids that they got. It reminded me basically of sort of Big Fat Liar meets sort of a Christmas heist, Christmas. And I love Big Fat Liar. I love Big Fat Liar. And have you ever seen Big Fat Liar?
Yeah.
Muniz. Yeah, I love Big Fat Liar. I think it's so funny. And that's basically what you get here. You get this kid who's like kind of cocky and thinks he can get away with everything. And then he finds out that he's on the naughty list. And so him and this group of sort of misfit kids go up through various convoyances, go up to the North Pole and are trying to get their presents. And it was funny and again, charming. And I love Winslow Fegley. He was my Timmy Failure, which is the movie I loved. And he's a great little kid actor. He's very talented. And yeah, I think that kids, families will have a ton of fun with this. It's well made. The whole North Pole kind of world that they created is well done. And it feels like, okay, they spent money on this. And I mean, it's crazy that in my 2023 Disney ranking, I'm going to have 2 Disney Channel movies, like way high, like very, very high. And I mean, and that's just bonkers. But Prom Pact and The Naughty Nine are definitely 2 of the best things that Disney has released. And I think because they didn't make either of them, they bought both of them. And so I think that that's why they're better.
Oh my God.
They just have not been, for me at least, they have had it has just been a very bad year. Very, very bad year. And I just over on my other channel published the deep dive on Wish with my friend Stanford, which was very bland and forgettable. And the indie movie was very bland and not great. The Haunted Mansion, I wanted to die. It was so boring. And I did like Guardians 3, and that was good. And I did like The Little Mermaid more than I thought I would, but it's been rough for Disney this year. And so I just thought that was kind of amazing. The Naughty Nine is one of the best. But yeah, if you think of it, Big Fat Liar with Christmas, then I think you'll know kind of what you're going into. And I would give it a 4 out of 5 for what it is. I really thought it was a fun time. So that's that. And we have over at QVC Plus, we have the recipe files. And this is director Lindsay Hartley, writer Jennifer Snow, and it stars Ashley Simpson, Morgan Bradley, Doug Noble. After losing her job, Baker Isabel finds herself seeking adventure in a new town when she suspects her recent thrift store find, a mysterious recipe book, may hold clues to its former owner's death. She sets out to crack the case. So last year, the QVC movie, it was like the hot chocolate holiday or something like that, and it was actually like pretty fun. It had like a little bit of a sense of humor, and they had the QVC chef on, but it wasn't obnoxious. Like it was fine. You know, he was just playing it was like had the amazing hot chocolate recipe or something, and so he was fine. And so I was actually going to this like, oh, this could be another fun one. Surprise. It was not a surprise. It was terrible. I guess a surprise of how terrible it was. Honestly, I didn't finish it. It was just too much. I was just not, I don't know. I had reached my bad Christmas movie things, and I just stopped because I just didn't like it. So yeah, you saw it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I can't believe you made me watch this, Rachel. Rachel said, I didn't even know this was a thing. Obviously, I knew that QVC from last year had did the movie, but I had no idea of this one. So I'm like, Ashley Simpson, like former pop star Ashley Simpson. And obviously, I don't watch QVC. We have QVC, but I don't watch QVC. So any of the people just was like completely over my head. Like, obviously, I knew the product placement parts, but the rest of it, I was like, these random people would just pop up. I don't know who you are, so it's not really.
I don't even think that you could call this a movie. I mean, I think it's a stretch to call it a movie. I mean,
and the fact that you're
really was like in the middle of the movie, they would be like, well, and here you can get a mixer. And here's the number to call. And I was just like, what?
Yeah. And this sort of pause to have two hosts that I've never seen before in my life sort of give me a recap of the last 15 minutes of the movie, and I'm like, just what I want to watch the movie. This is like, it's 2 hours long for a like 1 hour, like 20-minute movie, and I'm having to give you 2 hours of my time. Like, I did finish it, but the second half of it, I was cleaning my kitchen, like more listening to it in terms of like a podcast than I was like watching it. So because I was like, it doesn't really, I don't have to watch it because none of these people are recognizable to me,
right?
Because I don't watch QVC, so it's all lost on me anyway. So I can just sort of watch it.
Yeah,
and I do like the idea of it being sort of like a mystery Christmas movie, because we don't we sort of have these copy and paste movies all of the time. They tend to all sort of blur together. So the idea of doing something a little bit different, like I like the idea of it, just the sort of the result this time around just wasn't good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was painful. It was painful. And I like I said, the only reason I guess because Jennifer Snow's done some good things. I mean, she has 7 Christmas movies this year, but it wasn't really her fault. I mean, it was just a weird project. It was a weird, like, what was this? And like the fact that it wouldn't be like a little bit emotional for him, like he's got that they're figuring out these clues of his mother's death, and like, you know, the way that everybody acted, like it was just like, oh, this is so fast.
Yeah, and Ashley Simpson was so unbothered by every piece of information that was coming her way. Of like, I found the recipe book, and she's like, yeah, just give it back. Like, anytime they were coming to her with a clue, she was just sort of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And
and the clues didn't really like, they would figure things out, and you were like, what? How did you figure that out from that? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah. I think
It really felt
this,
like parody. It felt like somebody making fun of these movies.
and I do think, the biggest downfall of this movie is that it stops so often to like
So
give you a
often.
commentary on it. It's like you're already, you're just any chance of me being into this movie is immediately taken out by the fact that you're stopping it.
Yeah, agreed.
Every like 5 times or something
Yeah,
ridiculous like that. So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, get your designer
yeah,
hot
get your hot
chocolate or
chocolate, yeah. And these cups that definitely don't have any liquid.
right. It was bonkers. I don't know. I give it 0. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah, I'll give it 0.5.
It was so bad.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
And this was on BET Plus, and this is directed by Patricia Kofi Jones, writers Gregory Adams and Patricia Kofi Jones, and we had executive producer Greg McBride, and he's the one who sent us this to watch, and he's a good friend of the podcast. And it stars Roger Anthony, Jarrett Michael Collins, Arisha Connor. Is after her career is derailed by her manager fiance, the reigning princess of Christmas and defuncted R&B singer retreats to her family's home for the holidays, where her mother convinces her to direct the family's ragtag church choir so they can win a Christmas choir competition. So I got the chance to see this. You haven't seen it. I had a bit of a rocky relationship with the BET movies last year, and that's why I decided to not review them this year. And one of the things that I didn't care for was almost every movie had some kind of like cat fight type situation with the gold digging women after your man kind of a thing. And that's just not for me. I don't love that. Like I said, fighting. I don't love fighting in these movies. And it was interesting because this one, it did have a little bit of that. There was this other woman who was this rival choir director, and they went back and forth. And at one point she kind of steals their song and that they were going to do. And so there was like a little bit of that, but the girl does kind of learn to be kind and compassionate. And so it was done sort of more tolerably than I've seen in some of the other movies, and with like more humanity. And there's a lot of music in this movie. If you love gospel, you will love this movie. There's a ton of really fun performances because it's all about this Christmas choir competition. And so that's super fun. I love that kind of music. And the main character, she starts as this kind of diva, and she's coming back to the hometown. But she does have a pretty good arc, I would say. And she comes to learn and kind of forgive her dad for leaving, for her dad has passed away, and all of that. And then her relationship with her mom and just her feelings about Christmas and everything like that. She's able to, and then there's also this romance that was pretty swoon worthy. It was pretty good. So overall, this was a decent little movie. And I think especially if you like gospel music, then you'll enjoy this one. And compared to some of the others that I've seen on BET Plus, this was way better than most of them. So I'd recommend it. Yeah.
Last year I felt bad for you every episode you would come on, and yeah, you were so hopeful that the next one would be the one.
Yeah. I mean, I just felt bad at a certain point, like, but I had to be real, you know, of what I felt about the movies. But I was glad to see this one was definitely better than those other ones. All right, so that is the non-Hallmark from this week. Let us know what you've been watching and what you think of the ones that we talked about. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And if there's ones that we missed that you think we should check out, please put in the comments. We'd love to hear that as well. And of course, we also have our reviews for like the Up TV movies and some of the other movies in separate videos. So make sure you take a look at our full schedule to see all of the non-Hallmark that we're reviewing. And Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm Michelle R. Benton.
Right. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure that you are following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening out on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. Really, really appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store, so check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Merry Christmas.